thank you all for being here and for staying for this, and for the vestry for allowing me to present this to you, and for the Father John for being so kind to walk us through this process so that we can just introduce something that is near and dear to my heart and to Bob's heart to the rest of you. It's a strange journey that we have had that got us to start a 501c3. We are a legitimate Washington State charity, registered in all of the, thank God, what an issue it was to get registered, but we are registered not only in Washington State, but in the United States as a 501c3, and we are approved. And our ministry is called Frolicking Home Ministries. Bob and I have our own company called Frolicking Home Enterprises, and I'll tell you just a tiny bit about that. But we wanted to do something more, and this is what has evolved from that. Our primary focus in this ministry is something called Orphans Lighthouse that is in Uganda. And I have lots of things to bring to you, and I'll try to be really good about your time. I know it's precious, but there's so much I want to talk to you about. So let's get started. I want to tell you how it all started. First of all, can you all hear me okay? Next slide. I took a sabbatical from my career and in 2011 and started writing Christian children's books. My career has nothing to do with writing children's books. I'm an engineer. I'm an aerospace and defense engineer, and I just happened to be stationed down in Mobile, Alabama at the end of a job, and Bob was still working it, and I had been segued off of the job. And so I said, well, I don't have anything else to do. I might as well write a book. So I did. I wrote a couple of books. My first one was this one, The Little Star That Shines for Jesus. And this is about the Star of Bethlehem. And then I wrote later on another book called Little Lamb Meets the Shepherds. Now, I am not a good salesman for these books because I have a lot of them still in the garage. But I did try to advertise them, and I advertised them through Facebook. And I have pages that talk about them. And it's through Facebook that this young man found me. Go ahead. He has an orphanage, and I'll tell you how that started in just a bit, in Uganda. But let me just give you just a smidgen of background about Uganda and what the situation is there. Uganda, these are UNICEF records from 2012. That's the latest that I could find. But the life expectancy of a person in Uganda is about 58 years, which is incredible considering that here in the United States, it's easy to see people in their 80s and still thriving and doing well. The majority of the people, there are only 36 million people in Uganda. More than half of them are under the age of 18, if you can imagine that. And 7 million of them are under the age of 5. It is an extremely young country. A lot of that is due to the quality of life there, but also AIDS has hit them extremely hard. And so what we found was the case is that there are a lot of children whose parents have died of AIDS, and they are wandering the streets, having no place to go. And that's what happened, go to the next page, with this little Orphans Lighthouse. This is Kenneth Mukama, or as they do their names backwards by our standards, Mukama Ken. And he's in the center of this. And these are some, not all, of the 53 children that we support in Uganda. Kenneth is the one who contacted me about helping him. He just asked for help. Please help me. He inherited an orphanage from his dad. His dad was a police chief in the area, and when he saw kids wandering the streets, he started just taking them in. And they have a four-room house. I have a picture of it later in the presentation. And little by little, this thing has, they've taken more and more kids in. His dad died, as a lot of people do early, and Kenneth inherited this as about 30 years old. And I don't know about you, but if I was 30 and someone handed me, 50 kids, at that point it was only like 30 something, but even more than 2 for me would be, And So he inherited the 4-room house and the kids, and he was trying to feed them and clothe them and do all that. And that's when he reached out to me. I have been working with him since 2014. And we have just in 2018 achieved NGO status, non-governmental organization status, which is really a huge thing in other countries, to be able to say that you're a legitimate organization. And believe it or not, I am president of an orphanage in Uganda that I have never stepped foot in. But he has put me named as president. He considers himself the executive director, but I am Madam President. And it's really kind of funny. Go ahead. Of course, how do you say no to 53 kids that need to be fed? You just don't. But I'm not really as stupid as I look sometimes. And so I wanted to test them and see what, is this just a scam? Is this my $2 million from Nigeria that's going to come to me if I'd only give my bank account number, And so the first thing I did is I sent each a copy of each of my books. I knew there weren't many of them, so I wanted him to take pictures of kids with my books. And that way I would know that there were actually kids, and he wasn't just pulling down pictures of kids from the internet to do that. And so I sent that in a children's Bible over to them, and lo and behold, a couple of months later they arrived, and he sent me pictures via Facebook of these kids and with the books, and they were all smiling and happy. I said, okay. So I knew of a ministry that was called Waters of the World, and I knew a gentleman who was very involved in that, and so I asked Waters of the World if they would install a water filtration system in that orphanage. And obviously they needed water filtration. That would be a benefit to them. But for me, I'm asking them, check them out, make sure that they're legitimate, that they're really kids there, that this is not just some hypey stuff situation. And he checked him out, and he said, yeah, it looks legitimate to me. It doesn't look like a great place. They're sleeping on the floor, and but he says it is legitimate. There are kids there, and they really have needs. So I worked and worked and worked trying to find some way to easily get money to them. We tried Western Union, and that failed abysmally. They are corrupt outside of the United States. I don't even know if I don't say anything here. I don't know about them here. But outside the United States, it's a terrible corruption. And we would lose money by sending it through Western Union. And so I sought other avenues to get money there. And I found one. The church that I had come from has an extensive missionary program throughout the world. They are highly involved in Africa, and I happened to find that they had a missionary couple that was just outside of just really near where this orphanage was. And so that church takes any money that you give to missions for that church, 100% of that money goes to the mission field. So I coordinated with this missionary, Dan Anderson, and I asked him if he would be willing to be a conduit for funds that I gave to the orphanage, and he agreed to do so. And I said, here, I will give you extra money for you, but this money I want to go toward the orphanage. And so for over 3 years, we managed to send money to this orphanage to feed these kids through Dan Anderson, and bless his heart, he did it. And he, in addition to doing that, he taught Kenneth how to keep books. He was on the mission field for a strange reason, although he can preach. He was there to teach missionaries how to be financially responsible and how they can have income-producing projects so that they can have a church and still sustain themselves in the ministry and such. And so, I mean, it was a gift from God that he was teaching Kenneth how to do real bookkeeping and how to make it a legitimate organization. And so that's what happened. And here's a picture of can you go back, please? You're going the wrong direction. Okay. No. Up arrow. Keep on going. One more. There. This is Dan. and Melody Anderson. There's Kenneth. And we had sent some money to Dan for Christmas presents one year. I have to tell you a funny story about that. And they were delivering the Christmas presents. I wanted to get stuffed animals doll, and I bought all these Christmas presents. This will show you how stupid I am sometimes. I bought all these Christmas presents and took them to the mail place to have them shipped for 53 kids, and I had dolls and stuffed animals and trucks and it was just fun, it was just a blast. And I got the bill to mail them. It was over $10,000 to mail them. And so I said, I don't think I want to do that. So I took all of them back, and then I sent money. and they bought them for us. So, you live and learn about this. But go ahead. But here's the fun part. These are the kids. Look at these faces. I just love these kids. There are 53 kids here that we support in Orphans Lighthouse. Not all of them live in that 4-room house, although a little more than half of them do. The rest of them are orphans, but they do have extended family in the area. Grandparents, perhaps, or an aunt. But those people are not able to pay for them. And so what winds up happening is that, okay, they've got a roof over their house, but they're starving and they're malnourished and they don't get to go to school and that sort of thing. So a lot of the ones that are in that situation actually also have AIDS. And so it's nice that we have a place to keep them that is away from the larger quantity of the kids, the larger number of the kids. And so we have 53 of them total. 32, I think that's changed now to 33 of them are now living in our home, which is the 4-room home. We provide all of the food, fuel, housing, clothing, tuition, and medical needs for all of these kids. 20 now are considered foster children, and we provide everything but boarding for them. And it's really kind of exciting. But aren't those faces wonderful? Look at this little face. I love him. At our home, we have now 18 girls, not 17. 5 of them are little girls, little, don't even go to school yet. 15 boys, and 2 of them are little ones. And here are some of the girls and some of the boys, and there are some of the little ones. The faces are just precious. I mean, they are just incredibly beautiful children. Go ahead. Here are 2 of the most recent foster children. We've actually had them for 2 years now. The top picture is of Ruth. You can see here, Ruth, and this was Paris. And they were living with their grandmother, but they were so malnourished that they didn't develop properly and they couldn't walk. And Paris even has clubbed feet. And so we provided the medical treatment for them to get the medical attention that they needed. For Paris, it's been a 2-part process. He just recently had surgery, but we also got them food to eat. And so they are looking much better. Go to the next picture. You can see that this was her first wheelchair, and she is now to the point where she can actually stand. And this is Paris, and he had the first treatment at this point. Next slide. Now Ruth has a larger wheelchair, and here's the stand that they made so that she can stand up. And then this is Paris. You can see his feet are clubbed here, but there's a video on Facebook under our page that will show him walking like crazy, even on his poor little clubbed feet. Well, since doing that, just a couple weeks ago, he had surgery, and they've corrected his, totally corrected his feet, supposedly. Well, I'm hoping that those are the results anyway. We're praying for that. But he is walking around, and so we would appreciate your prayers for his continued progress and that the pain wouldn't be severe for him. He's just a little kid. You would think standing up is an important thing. It's they don't have potties like, I know I talk about potties, Lisa, far too much, but this is such a big issue for me. That they have a hole in the ground, and that's where they go potty. And if you can't stand up, it makes it really difficult to go potty. And so this poor little girl had no way to properly deal with that, and we think of all sorts of problems that you might have, but you don't think of that as being, one of the things that you're stuck with and having to contend with. But now she can go potty. They can take the stand and help her so that she can have a normal life and not. And we're hopeful that she's going to be able to go beyond that. But that's where we are now. Anyway, these kids are actually taught in Anglican schools, which I'm just thrilled about. That's the list of schools that the kids go to. There's 3 primary schools, a secondary school, and a high school. The kids are, between the ages of about 2 to 18 now, and here's a couple pictures of them. In addition to just providing them these needs, what we're trying to do is encourage them to be responsible citizens, to learn how to be self-sufficient. And I'll show you some of those initiatives that we're trying to work with them as well. But God is first and foremost in what we try to do. We make sure that they understand that we serve God and that is our call to do. And we're hoping that they can give back to society and that they will be the leaders of that community pretty soon. In fact, Kenneth already is. And he is teaching these kids to do that as well. Next slide. They aren't able to go to an Anglican church on Sunday because it's just too far away. But they do go to a Pentecostal type of church there, which is right in their neighborhood. What we're hoping to do, and what Kenneth would love to do, is to start an Anglican church there. And we have property to do it, and so that's part of the things that we're working on making to happen. So, but they do go to church. This is Kenneth. He's a good-looking guy. And we hired Letitia, who does cooking and cleaning and laundry, and she is the female there. Dan, the missionary Dan, talked to Kenneth and said, "You got to have a woman here, otherwise we're going to be in real trouble." And so we have Letitia, and she takes care of things for us. Bless her heart. We have accomplished remarkably a lot of things as I look back when I was building this presentation. Go ahead. Since 2014, we put in the water filtration system. We dug a well. We installed a pump. We rebuilt the toilets and the showers. That's these. They actually made their own bricks. Can you, that's incredible to me. We built an office for Kenneth, which is this little one-room kind of building. This is his office in the community. Because he had done so much for the community, they all came around and helped him build this. This is our pump. Someone gave him a 50-watt solar power system, and that helps to provide power for the computer. And because his father was in the hospital, he had incurred debt, and it went against the property so we eliminated the debt on the property, and so everything is ours. Next slide. Here's some more pictures of the pump and the well. We have started with gardening, talking about the self-sufficiency. They are raising some crops, including maize and some that looks like zucchini and tomatoes maybe. So they are learning how to take care, how to have gardens and such. We tried with chickens. We're going to give it another try eventually. There's the stock of chickens that they have in Africa is not great, and so they didn't quite live long enough to make us all happy. But we're going to try that again, and I'd love to get some goats there for them for milk and such. Anyway, those are all things that we're looking at. We purchased a computer and a camera so that we could keep good tabs on what was going on there. We've provided monthly expenses for over 5 years. We have provided tuition and school supplies for over 5 years. Bunk beds and bedding was a recent project we did at the end of the year for the kids that are in the house that we have. We provided bunk beds and bedding, and then netting to protect them from mosquitoes because the malaria is so awful there. This is the little home that all of them live in, if you can imagine here. That's the home. Our most recent project was Bibles for everyone. The kids wanted Bibles. They didn't have their own Bible. And so at the end of last year, in November, we started having a monthly birthday party for the kids. So every month we have a party and have a cake, and you can see this is the birthday kids get a little hat to wear, and they get pop, and so it's kind of a fun thing. Kids need to have things like that. And starting in January last month, we are giving them a birthday present of their very own Bible, and so 4 children last month got a Bible, and then this month, in fact earlier today, they had the party for the February birthdays, and so 2 months now we've been doing that, and so the rest of the kids will get on their birthday of this year. So we're real thrilled about that. We have provided shoes and clothing. They were barefoot before, but we finally got shoes for them. I just found out recently, I don't know why this is such a big thing, they all don't have underwear, and so I'm going to send some money for underwear in the next shipment. But they all don't wear underwear. They have clothes. They're covered. But underwear is not a standard item, and so we provide them gifts at Christmas time. Not a lot, but just something. The birthday parties, I told you, we do a special Christmas dinner and make sure they have meat at least. We try to do meat. Not for every meal they don't get meat, but they do get meat occasionally, and especially on special holidays. I mentioned the bookkeeping rigors, and we provided a wheelchair for Ruth. We've provided surgery. We've provided hospitalization when they were injured. One of our girls, unfortunately, was raped by some Muslim men, and she was one of the foster children. And so we now have her in our home, not in her grandmother's home anymore. She was hospitalized, and she's doing okay now. But it was just a horrible, horrible thing. And of course, there are accidents that happen, but we cover the medical expenses. Go ahead. Kenneth has been doing some outreach as well. Jiggers is a problem. Jiggers is different than chiggers, I found out, but it's still an insect issue, in that he was helping the community to address problems like that. He's also joined the school board and the PTA, and he's helping in those regards too. So he regularly goes to the schools and makes sure that they're doing things and helps there. We have some of the farming. That's some of the maize that they grew. And chicken keeping, although I don't think any of those chickens are still with us. So, but we tried. Go ahead. Next slide. So Dan and Melody Anderson, the missionaries, are retiring. And our gift of being able to use them was going away. And so I said, oh dear, we're going to have to do something, because I can't go back to doing Western Union. Thank you. And so we decided to have this charity. And so this is the charity, Frolicking Home Ministries. We are legitimate, a 501c3. Go ahead. I didn't want to be criticized by people here in the United States by someone saying, well, why are you helping kids over there? Why aren't you doing anything here? And so I decided that the way I'd like to do something here is to help with children to stop abortion and to try to represent them. So I am doing some things there. We're starting that up. I don't exactly know where we're going with that yet, but we would appreciate your prayers, and as we have guidance. I have had a meeting with the lady who started Anglicans for Life, and I think that initially that might be a wonderful way of being able to send some money to support them on some of their projects, and that until we can get everything up and running and do more here. I am meeting with people here local, not local to Thurston County. We live in Pierce County, and so I'm working with the folks up in Pierce County for the pro-life initiatives and such, and I'm getting very involved in human life for Washington and those types of things. So I think that we'll have some avenues that we can do something, but right now our primary focus is Orphans Lighthouse. So I just want to highlight a couple of the big projects. The bunk bed project, we did 17 bunk beds. This is the bunk beds, they're metal, but you can, they're colorful. And they had mattresses. They didn't used to have mattresses. So we got 17 bunk beds, 9 for the girls and 8 for the boys, 34 pillows, fitted sheets, mattress covers, pillow protectors, blankets and throws, and mosquitoes netting. You know, I'm asking, do you all have these? Do you use these things? Well, they didn't, but they do now. So, the Bible Project, I mentioned that before. These were January kids. She wasn't smiling here, so we got another picture of her smiling. She actually was very happy about it. So that's the Bible Project. Go ahead. The needs are many. As you can imagine, feeding and caring for 53 kids is nothing. Our monthly expenses for just taking care of them is about $1,000 a month. The tuition expenses for all the kids on a yearly basis is about $5,000. So if you think of it in terms of, if you were doing that for kids here, that's a bargain. But it's still, that's still a lot of money to do, and we're just a small thing. We have other projects that we want to do, and that includes, we'd like to get a van. We have no transportation for them. Kenneth has a bicycle, and when that little girl was raped, he put her up on the handlebars and took her to the hospital that way. I mean, if you can imagine what she went through. What we'd like to do is, we do have a piece of property adjacent. I'll show you a little map or drawing of it that is empty, that we'd like to build a real compound on, dormitories and the regular kitchen and showers and bathrooms and have an area. And I'll show you all of that. So we'd like to get a van for them and those types of things, and that will be a big expense up front. But once we do that, then it's just maintenance and keeping things going. It's actually not that expensive to even build that. I mean, we're talking on the order of somewhere, I'm getting some bids in, but somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 to put the whole compound in. I mean, here it would cost $1 million. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, and we're excited about what we can do there. Go ahead. So here's the property. This is the current place. This is Kenneth's home, this long stretch here. That's his little house up there, but he has this whole piece of property over here that we're talking about putting a compound on. And what we want to do is put gardens and pig pens or goat pens and that sort of thing in the back. Just simple structures. We're not looking to build the Taj Mahal. What we do want to put dormitories up. I would like, this is just something I took out of like front gate, but obviously it's not going to look like this. But to give you an idea, I was thinking that if you had a couple of dormitories, boys on one side, girls on the other, and then you had this structure that was just roof over top that provides some shelter for a common area between there, that you could use it for a lot of different things, and have tables and chairs. They could do homework there, they could eat there, it could just be a nice gathering place, and we could even start a church there, at least in the beginnings, and having something of that sort going on. So that's what our dream is. And all total is 3.5 acres, which is not bad to do. So go ahead. I want to be totally transparent in this venture about our expenditures, and this is what we have given since October. We provided some funds in October for the monthly expenses and part of tuition. The bunk beds were a big expense at the end of October, along with monthly expenses. And then December we did Paris's surgery, monthly expenses, and shoes, clothes, and Christmas gifts and those things. Monthly expenses in January, and then February, and half of the Bible Project January and February. So we paid for all the Bibles for the entire year. So we're there. I'm about to send another check for March, just probably when I get home. So why am I doing this? I want you to pray for this. I want you to love these kids, and I want you to pray for them, and that we do the right things for them. Pray for the kids. Pray for Kenneth and Letitia. Pray for our efforts that we will do the right things, and that they will eventually be self-sufficient. And don't you love this face? I would take her home here in a heartbeat. I just love these kids. Second, if you do have any spare change that you'd like to send our way, we are happy to have it from you. And I have some cards here that will, first of all, remind you to pray on one side, and I'll show you what that is. Go ahead and this is what the card looks like. On the front side is our name, and you can donate right at our website. It will go through PayPal. And if you wanted to do something like that, you're welcome to do it. You can follow us on Facebook, and not only me or this charity on Facebook, but you can follow Kenneth on Facebook and follow Orphans Lighthouse. So you will actually see money that you sent going to do something there, because he's always posting pictures of the kids and things, and you'll see what happens there. If your company does dollar matching for that, we are registered with them, and you can do it. You can do that as well. But here's something that won't cost you any money and that can get us funding anyway. How many of you buy through Amazon? Any of you purchase Amazon? How many of you know about smile.amazon.com? If you do, go to smile.amazon.com. You can specify your favorite charity. We would like to be your favorite charity. And 0.5% of every purchase that you make is given to the charity of your choice. And it's only pennies on your purchase, but they add up. And we really appreciate anything that you can do along that line. If you want to take, these are just cards, you can take them. If you need more to pass out, we have lots of them. And on the back is just a sample prayer that we wrote that said, Heavenly Father, please bless this ministry and guide its every action so that unborn and orphan children might grow to love and serve you in your name. And it's our prayer. We are trying to help the least of these, like Jesus asked us to do. And that's what we're doing. So, next slide. These kids have dreams too. Next slide. Next slide. And the next one. This is the name, this is the roster of our children. They're really real. They have names: Henry, Sadamu, Ruth, Loy. And that's their birthdays. That's baby Nahia. That's at the bottom. Go ahead, Bobby. There's all of the kids. Matthew and Praise and Gladys and Bruno. One of my favorite kids is Asuman. Asuman managed to get himself all scraped up one day, and he had to go to the hospital. We had pictures of him looking with all this white salve all over his face. But they're precious kids. Anyway, thank you for your time. And I've been told that I get to be the first to have a ministry on our bulletin board. Yes. And I'm excited about that. So thank you very much.